Hi, friends. Last week we talked about writing a small moment narrative, and you wrote your own small moment while really thinking through each part of a story and making sure your narrative has a complete beginning, middle, and end that tells the story in the order that it happened with lots of detail so that the reader feels like they were there and they're seeing everything firsthand. So I've seen some really awesome drafts. I've seen some really good stories. But since we've finished our entire story, that means we need to move on to the next step. And the next step of writing a narrative is the revision phase. So once we've got our rough draft typed up, that means now we've got to go back to that story and we've got to make sure it's the strongest version of the story. So a lot of the time, what that means is that we're going to be taking some things out and adding some new things in. And when I say things, I mean details. So this is my opportunity to make sure that my story has enough detail that my reader can visualize it, but not too much that it distracts them from the main point of the story. So I want you to watch as I start to revise my writing. I'm not going to make you sit and watch me revise the whole writing, but listen to the kind of thinking that I'm doing as I'm rereading my story from the beginning. So I'm going to start at the beginning and I'm just going to reread the first couple sentences first so I can really think about just those sentences and see if I need to make any changes. I don't want to read the entire story at once because then I'll get distracted by things and I'll be jumping back and forth. So I'm just going to focus on a few sentences at a time. So let's see. The sun was beaming on my yellow bike as I heard my brother and his friends yell at me to catch up. We were riding bikes down the biggest hill in the neighborhood. Hmm. Well, I think that I've got some good detail because I told the reader, like I said, the sun was beaming on my yellow bike. That's good descriptive language. And I went ahead and introduced that we were with my brother and his friends. And then that second sentence, I said we were riding bikes down the biggest hill in the neighborhood. But I'm kind of thinking that I don't really like the way I worded that we were riding bikes down the biggest hill in the neighborhood, because really, we were riding bikes all over the neighborhood. The biggest hill just happened to be where we were when I got really hurt. So instead of saying my sentence like that, I think I'm going to take that sentence out and I'm going to rewrite it so that it makes my story a little bit more clear for my reader. So instead of saying we're riding bikes down the biggest hill, I'm saying, okay, so his friends yell at me to catch up. We were riding bikes together through the neighborhood. Okay, because that's what we were doing. We're riding through the neighborhood. And then, okay, so I like that a little bit better. So then I said the boys had been teasing me all day that I wasn't as good of a bike rider. I was going to prove them wrong today. Okay, so the boys had been teasing me all day that I wasn't as good of a bike rider, but I didn't tell them as good of a bike rider as who. So I don't think I gave enough there. So I'm not going to delete that whole sentence. I'm just going to add something to the end. So instead of saying the boys had been teasing me all day that I wasn't as good of a bike rider, I'm going to say I wasn't as good of a bike rider as them because I was the only girl. Okay, so I think that's really important to include because that is the reason they were teasing me and saying, you're a chicken, you're a girl, and then, boys rule, they were being mean to me because I was the girl. And originally I didn't tell my reader that. So this revision, I'm going to make sure my reader knows that's why they were teasing me and making fun of me while we were riding bikes. Okay, I was going to prove them wrong today. Okay, I think I like that sentence. All four of us rode our bikes up to the top of the biggest hill in the neighborhood. Okay, see there, I like that because now I told my reader about the hill. So at first I had told them in the beginning, but since I changed that, made that revision that we were just riding together in the neighborhood, then I introduced that we were going up to the biggest hill in the neighborhood. So that kind of is leading and it's kind of building the suspense up to for my reader, like, oh my gosh, this girl, they're going up to the tallest hill in the neighborhood. Something bad has to happen, right? So we're kind of building that anticipation by only giving just enough detail as we write. So What I want you to do as you are continuing to work on your writing, I want you to go and open the same document that you have been working on with your story. And I want you to try the work that you just watched me do at the beginning of my story. I want you to look at your writing a couple sentences at a time and see and ask yourself, where can I make a revision to make this story even better? How can I make this story more clear for my reader? How can I add details for my reader? What information did I give that I don't really need and I can take out or move to a different part of the story? So really focus on making your writing the best version of itself.